Ever wondered about the ancient fortress in the sky called Lion's Rock? It sits 200 meters high on a hill, known as Sigura. People say it might have been built by extraordinary beings. Let's explore the mystery behind Lion's Rock, the lost city of Sigura. Discovering ancient structures is common in archaeology, offering insights into the past. However, Sigura, an ancient city, stands out as a site where we glimpse an era of remarkable archaeological progress thousands of years ago. The buildings in and around this city are exceptionally well designed, prompting experts to believe that they shouldn't have been possible during its construction around 1500 years ago. Surrounding the city, you'll find pools of water and fountains flowing along the 180-meter-tall rock. Underground pathways and reservoirs, considered too advanced for that time, add to the city's uniqueness. Situated in Sri Lanka's central province, Sigura is an ancient rock fortress, perched atop a massive boulder, approximately 180 meters high. The fortress is embraced by lush gardens and forests. Sigura isn't just a strong and well-located city, it's also a place of luxury. Now a historic site attracting over 1 million visitors annually, the city's history is reminiscent of an Indiana Jones adventure. As documented in the Kulavamsa, an ancient Sri Lankan text, King Kashyapa, who reigned from 477 to 495 AD, built Sigura during his 18-year rule. The king, known for his grand reign, chose this site as his new capital and is credited with constructing advanced structures, some of which still stand today. Before King Kashyapa made Sigura his home and built his splendid palace, he had to take the throne from his father in a really awful way. His father, King Dhatusena, ruled Sri Lanka's provinces before Kashyapa was born. King Dhatusena had successfully brought together the warring groups on the island, and Kashyapa was his firstborn son. However, Kashyapa wasn't the rightful heir, because the king had another son named Magallana, born to the queen. Even though Kashyapa was the elder son, he couldn't claim the throne because he was born to a concubine, not the queen. So he had to watch his half-brother become the ruler. But Kashyapa wasn't okay with that. Wanting the throne for himself, he plotted to take it from his brother. He teamed up with Megara, the commander of the king's army, and together they successfully carried out a coup in 483, overthrowing King Dhatusena. Now the king of the Mauryan dynasty in Sri Lanka, Kashyapa believed his father had a lot of hidden wealth. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a huge reservoir of water that his father had built to make sure people and farmland had water for a long time. Disappointed that his father wasn't rich, Kashyapa went to extreme measures. He had his father killed in a terrible way, burying him alive behind a wall while his half-brother ruled. King Magallana, the rightful heir, got scared for his life and escaped to India to avoid being killed by his brother. However, he never came back to take his throne, fearing an attack from his half-brother. Kashyapa then moved his palace and the capital from the traditional city, Venuradapura, to the safer top of Sigura. There, he started building the most advanced palace in Sri Lanka at that time. During his 18-year rule, Kashyapa turned Sigura into a well-defended oasis, with pleasure palaces and highly advanced water systems. The way Sigura was planned and built made people wonder if it was more than just human wisdom. Some believed it was the work of gods. The architectural design seemed to blend the natural rock formation with man-made structures in a way that still puzzles architects today. The palace got its name, Sigura, meaning Lion Rock, because of its prominent lion entrance that leads up to the top of the rock. A remarkable feature of Sigura is a vast display of realistic drawings and paintings on the western face. These war frescoes showcase partially dressed women in various styles and activities. Although only 22 women are depicted today, the entire fresco area spans over 140 meters in length and 40 meters in height, believed to have originally featured over 500 paintings of these women. While many of these graffiti paintings have been lost over time, more can be found in other parts of the rock, including the ceilings of Cobra Hood Cave, an underground location near the rock's base. The paintings and their styles are exceptionally unique, belonging to the Anuradhapura era, but differing from other paintings of that time in terms of styles and applications. The lines in the paintings enhance the volume with sweeping brushstrokes, creating a unique effect not known in Sri Lanka during that period. Adding to the mystery surrounding Sigura, the true identities of the women remain unknown, but many believe they were King Kasyapa's wives and concubines. Their adornments and the raw nature of the drawings suggest they may have been associated with the pleasure palaces of King Kasyapa. The strategic location of the paintings, shielded from rain and direct sunlight, has preserved them for over 15 centuries. Siguria's opulence is truly awe-inspiring, and another intriguing feature is the mirror wall. This long stretch of stone lines, the spiral stairs leading to the frescoes. Initially made with brick masonry, the wall was repeatedly covered with polished white plaster, allowing the king to see his reflection. Over the centuries, visitors and nomads have covered the mirror wall with poems and verses, some dating back to the 8th century, with most traced to the 9th and 10th centuries AD. People from diverse backgrounds, spanning high-ranking government officials to poets, artisans, and even housewives, all left their mark on the mirror wall, etching fragments of their history. This historical canvas wasn't limited to a specific group. Even Buddhist monks, residing there long after King Kasyapa's era, contributed poems of love, loss, irony, and philosophy to Siguria's mirror wall. The literary value of these writings is elevated by their skillful use of rhyme, meter, and elements like wordplay, puns, and sarcasm. A staggering collection of over 1,500 poems and verses adorns the mirror wall, with many directed towards the beautiful ladies depicted in the frescoes. These compositions express profound admiration for the beauty and grace of these women. Interestingly, some poems, possibly composed by women, reveal sentiments of envy and resentment toward the frescoed figures. For instance, one poem expresses, "A deer-eyed maiden of the mountainside arouses anger in my mind. In her hand, she holds a string of pearls, and in her eyes, she assumes a rivalry with me today." To safeguard the original writings and preserve their authenticity for as long as possible, authorities have imposed a ban on contemporary tourists writing on the wall. This measure aims to protect and maintain the integrity of the historical inscriptions that have endured for centuries. The paintings on the mirror wall tell us a bit about Siguria's history, but the coolest thing about this old city is its water gardens. These gardens, up at the very top of the rock, cover the whole summit. The summit had the king's palace and other areas made for the royal family. The palace, made more than 1,500 years ago, was different because they used wood instead of heavy stones. Maybe it was because carrying tons of stones up a 200-meter-high rock would be too hard. The wooden palace is mostly gone now, worn away by nature. But in the royal park, which was made just for the royals, some things are still there. This includes water things like fountains and pools. They used smart systems to move water underground throughout the whole summit, even down to the pools below. Some of these water structures still work today. Siguria's gardens are some of the oldest gardens in the world. In the whole city, there were 3 kinds of gardens, all connected by some kind of water system. There were the cave and boulder gardens on the side and below the rock, the terrace gardens at the top of the rock, and the water gardens on the forest floor around Sigura. The water gardens are right in the middle of Sigura, and there are 3 main gardens. Each one is like a special area surrounded by water and connected to 3 different parts of the city using smart waterways. These gardens are super old, one of the first of their kind globally, and what's cool is that most of the fountains still work. They don't use machines, they run on the water that comes from underground, especially during the rainy season. Some of these gardens even have little islands in the water with summer palaces made just for the king's royal people. Then there are the boulder gardens. These gardens have big rocks arranged in a special way, starting from the top of the rock and going all the way down to the bottom of the city rock. They looked nice, but they were also smartly used. In times of war, they would push rocks off the side of the hill to protect the city, and they used this strategy in the fight that ended King Kasyapa's rule. Finally, there are the terrace gardens, made using the natural rocks at the bottom of the hill. These gardens spread out at the bottom and make a path going up to the staircase on the side of the rock. From there, a path leads up to the middle terrace, where the big lion staircase is. The lion staircase is one of the most important things in Sigura because it's special and really big. It looks like 2 huge lion paws, with stairs going up to the top of Sigura. When they made the city, the lion's staircase also had a big head, and the stairs went through its open jaws. But over time, the head got worn away, which is sad because it would have been an amazing thing to see. The city of Sigura goes beyond just the big rock itself. If you look from high up, you can see there was more land at the bottom, with 5 gates spreading out at each entrance. The most obvious one in the west was probably just for the king and his people. While King Kashyapa spent 18 years building Sigura, there was trouble coming. Remember Magellana, the real heir to Sri Lanka's throne who ran away to India? He came back in 495 with a huge army to take his dad's throne, promising help from India. Magellana attacked Sigura, but his half-brother, Kashyapa, fought back smartly. The war went on for days, but in the final battle, Kashyapa, riding on his war elephant, decided to change his plan. Unfortunately, his army thought he was retreating, so they all ran away, leaving the king alone. In the end, Magellana's forces took over Sigura, almost catching Kashyapa. But instead of being captured, Kashyapa used his own dagger to hurt himself. After Magellana took control, Sri Lanka's capital moved back to Anuradhapura, and Siguria's palace city became Buddhist monasteries. These monasteries lasted for more than 1,000 years until the 17th century when the city became an outpost for the Kandy Kingdom. Sigura stayed hidden until around 1831, when a British Army major, Jonathan Forbes, found it covered in bushes. But it wasn't until the early 1890s that people went there for archaeological digs. The first person to really study the ancient city was H.C.P. Bell, who wrote some of the earliest detailed texts about how the palace city looked in the past. More than a century later, in 1982, the Sri Lankan government allowed archaeologists and tourists to explore the whole city, revealing the rich history of this highly respected site. There's been a lot of work to fix up the city, especially the frescoes that got damaged in 1967. Led by cultural restoration specialist Luciano Morenzi, the restoration took over a year, giving some of the damaged frescoes a kind of facelift. There are reports that the original colors are fading, but that's normal after being out in the open for over 1,500 years. Now, Sigura is on the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites, showing it's one of the best old places where people lived and planned things out. It tells us how smart people were back then. Even though King Kashyapa gets credit for building Sigura, which earned him the nickname King of Patricide, for what he did to his father, experts think this place was used way before him. There's evidence that people lived on the rock's top as far back as 5,000 years ago during the Mesolithic period. They found signs of early Buddhist places and homes dating back to around 700 years before King Kashyapa came into power. Today, more than 1 million people visit the old city of Sigura every year. Tourists and archaeologists are interested in the cool buildings made over 1,500 years ago. Some people used to think gods helped Kashyapa build the city, but most don't believe that now. What do you think? Did Kashyapa get super smart ideas from the gods, or was he just really clever for his time? Let us know in the comments, and we'll catch you in the next video.